We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Breaking Bread Village. We're on a little bit earlier today, so I'm really excited to have our guest on today. I am so interested in this story because I don't know, I find it very intriguing. It's a little bit funny to me in more ways than one, and we'll talk about why. But I'm really just so happy to have Aria on with us today. I'm going to bring Aria on, and then she can introduce herself. Hey, Aria.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I am Aria DeMezzo. I'm the person who just won the Cheshire County Republican nomination for sheriff, despite being transgender, an anarchist, and a Satanist.
Yes. So welcome. And I am so happy that you were able to make some time for us today. I know you've been busy with interviews, and I know you've been busy with, your campaign. So I'm sure you are very busy. So I really am appreciative for you being on today. So we're going to just get right to it because when I saw this story, I was so intrigued. And anybody that knows me knows I get intrigued very easily, but this was very interesting to me because of everything you just stated that, just kind of is you, right? Everything about you is totally opposite the Republican Party in my experience. And I'm speaking very, generally speaking. So not speaking for every Republican, but most Republicans I know, they're not really for a lot of things that you are for, right? And so I just wanted to talk about this because, first of all, as I told you before we came on air, I would have loved to see some of the faces once they realize, oh, this is who we voted for, so we'll get to that too. But first of all, I want you to kind of tell us what made you decide to run for a Republican sheriff?
Well, the opportunity was there. The Libertarians did not have ballot access this year. We lost it in 2018 when the gubernatorial candidate that we presented did not do as well as we needed in order to maintain the ballot access. So when we went back to the drawing board, we were like, okay, well, if we want to run for anything now, we have to go door to door collecting signatures, getting thousands of them. And it's possible. In most years, it's possible, but with COVID-19 going on, it's not going to happen right now. And or we could just not take control, or we could just hijack one of these political parties that is already here, that already has that ballot access, and we could skip all of the petitioning and the signatures and just go file. Sure. So that was what led to it ultimately. And the Republican Party is substantially weaker here in Cheshire County than the Democratic Party is, because this is a Democratic stronghold, Cheshire County is. So the idea of plus most of the elected officials that we have here, because it's a Democratic stronghold, are Democrats. So if we were to go in there and try to do anything, we would more than likely end up losing primaries to incumbents versus the Republicans, who can't find enough people to fill all of the slots on their ballots. I mean, this year they couldn't find a sheriff candidate. The guy who normally runs was like, I'm not going to do it. I was going to file for state rep, but then Marilyn Hudson, one of the key figures, she's a chair or something, or vice chair, I don't know exactly what she is, but she's in the Cheshire County Republican Committee, learned about my plans in advance, and so she filed for the same office, which meant that I would have to do a primary against her, and she's this prominent figure. She's going to beat me easily. So, okay, well, I'll just run for something else. I didn't want to be a state rep anyway. So I checked online and saw that the person who normally files for the Republicans, Earl Nelson, had not done so. So I went to Concord and I filed, and they never filed anyone else. So
how smart.
Thank you.
Okay, so
this is ultimately the Republicans' fault. I would be running for state rep right now if they had just left me alone, but they didn't want a trans person running as their state rep candidate. So they're like, well, we're going to run someone against her. Okay, well, this is the consequences of your actions. Well done.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me why you want to be sheriff. Explain to me what in the system, of course, as being a sheriff, what did you want to change?
Well, the police are the enforcers of the state apparatus that is oppressing us. It's the police who are actually out there in the streets harassing us, oppressing us, enforcing the mandates of the state onto us. The sheriff has the most hands-on ability to actually do something about that. Ideally, yes, we would get people in city councils, in the House of Representatives and the Senate, then all the way up to the White House who actually want to rein in the police state, who actually want to stop the oppression. But that's so unlikely. It's so much easier just to get one person who actually believes in these things to run for sheriff and hopefully get it and implement these policies, because these city councils where the riots are happening, who have voted to defund their police, they're never going to actually defund their police. And if they do, it's just going to be like by 1% or something like that. The city councilors are not going to deliver on the promises that they're making in accordance with the will of the people. A sheriff can, because the only people I answer to are the voters.
Which is true. So tell me, because your slogan when you ran was "F the police." And so it wasn't like you didn't have a hidden agenda or anything. That you were very transparent from what I've read. So tell me how did they bypass that? Like I guess I'm just trying to, because you have signs and everything that say "F the police."
I don't know how they missed all of this, because this isn't my first time of doing something that, went at least statewide in its coverage. I tend to do things like this to attack the political system. Like last year, I ran for city council using the slogan of "Eat the Rich." How did they miss? And I was a Republican then too, by the way. That was one of the best parts. How did they miss that? How did they forget about that when they saw my name again on the ballot in September? How did they completely and totally forget about that? Furthermore, I ran as the Libertarian sheriff candidate in 2018, where I was in newspaper articles criticizing the incumbent Eli Rivera for not going far enough with his pro-immigration policy. Okay, sanctuary county for immigration, great. Now let's go ahead and add the drug war to that, and let's go ahead and add sex war to that. If you're going to ignore some of the laws because they're immoral, like the immigration laws are, go ahead and ignore all of the immoral laws. Ignore the laws against sex work, ignore the laws against drug users, ignore all of these laws that are creating victims, even though the actual act of doing so, like the act of smoking pot, doesn't create a victim. But when the police go and arrest that person for smoking pot, they create a victim. So just stop enforcing these immoral laws. And how did they forget that I was there in the Union Leader, the largest newspaper in New Hampshire, criticizing Eli Rivera for this? But they did.
And you're not. You can't be missed. You are.
No, I'm distinct here.
Yes, you stand out for sure.
There are other trans people here in Keene in particular, and probably throughout Cheshire County, but none of them draw attention to themselves the way that I do. And I get that. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. They don't want to, get out there and fight these fights. That's great. You shouldn't have to. I want to fight these fights. So.
No. I commend you for being courageous and standing, as you are. I commend you for that. So I want to kind of, and as I explained to you earlier, I want to break down everything that is you, right? Because I think that is so important to have this conversation in regards to who you are and how that is so interesting. And I'm hoping I'm saying the right words and finding the right words, but how it's so interesting that the Republican Party selected you, because everything that I don't know everything about you, but most of the things that we've talked about that are you go against their very essence, right? The core of their foundation. So
it does and it doesn't, Republicans are supposed to be small government, pro-freedom, pro all of these other things. I'm like, hey, I'm saying the same things that you're saying. I'm taking it a lot farther than you are, because I want no government and no taxation. But okay, in theory, we agree. Small government, people should be free to live their own lives. They shouldn't have to worry about being oppressed. They shouldn't have to worry about being attacked in the streets. In theory, Republicans, the actual voting Republicans, agree with those points. Sorry,
that's okay.
They're attention seekers.
So, no, I've seen some other interviews of yours, so I've seen the cats come on screen, so it's okay.
So the actual voting Republicans probably don't care that I'm trans or that I'm a Satanist or that I'm an anarchist, because I do agree with them on the fact that, we do need to get the government out of our lives because the government is being used to oppress us. And it may not be being used to oppress the farmer out here in rural New Hampshire. It is, but they're not aware of it because it's so minor. But
They're not, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you have to do this on your land, or it's that level of thing. It's not like they're out there getting killed in the streets of New York City for selling cigarettes, right?
Right.
But a lot of them have the self-awareness to know that if those things are happening, it's a problem and it needs to be dealt with. I don't know how many of the Republicans here are actually that type of Republican, but in theory, I don't really disagree with them. They disagree with their political party because their political party disagrees with them. The Republican Party is out there enforcing the police state, growing the state, raising taxes, starting more wars, and the actual voting Republicans profess to be totally against that.
That is very true. And that's the part that has had me so confused during this whole, especially right now in our climate, politically right now, it's had me so confused because I'm like, you say you want this, but the big government, federal government, is doing the complete opposite. So I'm just a little bit confused about that as well, because they do not go together.
We see the same thing with the LGBTQ community, where they're supporting people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm like, Kamala Harris is a cop. I mean, she did a lot of wrong to people out there in California. How can you support this person? I can't really speak to anything negative about Joe Biden's policies. I know that he was Barack Obama's vice president, and there were a lot of bombs dropped by Barack Obama during Barack Obama's presidency, and I don't support that, so therefore I can't support Joe Biden. That's all I need to know about him. He never said, hey, Barack, maybe we shouldn't bomb this Doctors Without Borders hospital. Maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Do you think that people are voting for Joe and Kamala based on fear of another Trump? Or, because the reason why I asked that is because some of the very things that Kamala in particular and Joe Biden, stuff that he said years ago, and some things not that long ago, but some of the stuff that they have both said and done goes against the very things that some Democrats say they want to see change for, right? So, right. And stuff that, especially when they were running, people had different things to say. But now that they are the pick, they're like, okay, we're just going to go with them because they're better than Trump. Do you think that's out of fear, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a lot of us and them mentality. Fear certainly plays a large role into it. Nobody wants some people do, but I don't want another Trump presidency. I didn't want the current one, but I also don't want a Biden-Harris presidency either. I don't want a presidency. My pick for candidate is firm and supreme. Let's make this dude president. He will leave us alone. That's what I want. I don't believe either of these two candidates, Biden or Trump, are suited for the job. And I don't believe either of them are going to do anything good for the world. The question is, do I want to eat this horrible plate of vomit or this horrible plate of someone's spit? I don't want to eat either of them.
Right. Okay, so that leads into my next thing. So, anarchist. Tell me why you describe yourself as an anarchist.
To jar people out of their stupors, right? Really, I'm a voluntarist, which means I believe that all interactions between people should be done by the consent of those parties. It should all be voluntary. If I want to do something, then I consent to do it. If I don't want to do it, then I don't consent. And I think that's a good rule for society to organize itself around. I don't think the state appreciates that, because the state is an entity that disregards our consent and that uses force, violence, and coercion to enforce its will onto everyone. And there's nothing voluntary about that. I don't consent to the American government. I don't consent to their right to tell me, to their authority, to tell me that I can't, do shrooms. Why? I never consented to give you this authority, but you're telling me I can't. And if I disobey, you will send thugs out here to kidnap me, and if I resist being kidnapped, they will kill me. That's the world we live in, where we have this apparatus here in place that does these things, and it justifies itself in all of the trappings of religion, People believe in the state. They believe in the government. It's this great, wondrous idea that is going to make the world a better place, but it's out there literally doing the opposite. But they don't face it because instead they rise for the judge. They salute the flag. They worship their idols just like they do at churches. So they're kneeling before the cross. They're singing the hymns of the state. My country, 'tis of thee. It's just a hymn to the state religion. And the state is out there doing these horrific things, and they can't realize it because it's not kidnapping. No, it's policing. It's arresting. It's not extortion. It's fining. It's not murder. It's policing. I don't know what else they would call it other than murder. But it is murder. It is extortion. It is kidnapping. Your religious belief that it's something else entirely is invalid. That's what it is. It's kidnapping. It's violence. And I oppose it.
No, I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear that. And it's really interesting as you brought up that point because, with religion, and we can get on to the Satanist part too. And with religion, a lot of times people do look for this higher hope, right? Because it's this idea that something has to be better than this, right? It's that hope that something has to be. And I do agree that some people do look at the government that way in regards to like, I know we're out here suffering, there's lots of stuff going on, but we have hope because if we vote these people in, things are going to be different. And, I especially have a lot of Caucasian women that tell me as a Black woman that, just tell people to vote, and your lives will stop, being murdered. Your life. And it's like, so it's this idea that if you just do this magical voting, that basically what you just said, all things will kind of magically come together. And it's just not true. But I agree with you that I do believe that people hold on to that because it's this idea that there has to be something better because people can't wrap around the mindset that this is it. Like this is our reality right now, right? So it's this idea that there's greater hope. So onto that, I want to talk about you being a Satanist. Can you explain to some people what being a Satanist is? Because I think that people have different understandings of it sometimes. So
before we get into that, though, I want to back up a little bit to the point we were just talking about, which is that the mythology of the state that is going to fix everything. I think it's ultimately that people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. They want to believe that the government can fix these things because they don't want to get out there and fix them. They want to pass it off to someone else. But this is our world. A government or a God isn't going to come along and give us heaven on earth. We can have it, but we have to build it.
Okay. So you're saying that people just want to kind of sit back and say, let them do the work while I sit here and just kind of, click my heels and it'll actually all kind of appear. Okay.
Yeah, like the people telling you, oh, well, just tell people to go vote and everything will be fixed. Well, you can't just tell people to go vote because then they end up nominating people like me, not knowing anything about them.
Exactly.
And I'm probably a great example. I think it would be a wonderful thing for the people of Cheshire County for me to become their sheriff. But that's not going to be true with most of these psychopaths that we're putting into positions of power because they want the power, because they want to oppress people. That's why they do it.
Yeah. And you do carry, because I saw a picture, you had a pistol in your skirt, right?
I do. Yeah, I carry.
Yeah.
I didn't carry until my car was vandalized. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I should start open carrying.
And that just happened recently, your car being vandalized?
It happened the night that all of this news blew up and went viral. So I don't know if it was related to the news or not, or if it was just some anti-trans person who did it. I don't know. But yeah, it was probably 2 weeks ago as of this Saturday. I think, it's been a long 2 weeks.
Oh, I bet. Everything just kind of happens real quick sometimes when life changes on us, right?
But regarding Satanism, Lucifer in Christian mythology, he's a rebel. He was created and told to bow down to God and to do whatever God told him to do. And then God created humans and God told him to bow down to humans or whatever. I don't know the exact mythology. And a lot of it has, Milton's Paradise Lost mixed into it. So which parts of these are actually from the Bible and which ones aren't? But God created Adam and Eve to be robots, to not have the knowledge of good and evil, to unthinkingly and unknowingly obey anything he told them to do because he was God and therefore it was good. And he denied them the access to the tree of knowledge of good and evil because he didn't want them thinking for themselves. And Lucifer came along as a serpent and said, hey, he's lying to you. if you eat this fruit, you won't die. You'll just have the knowledge of good and evil. You will become as gods. And one of these two people lied. One of them told the truth. And it happened to be Lucifer who told the truth. He rebelled against the most arbitrary authority that you can. And that's the creator of the universe. We should all aspire to, no matter what the consequences are, to rebel against an arbitrary authority that is telling us we have to obey because it said so, and that's it.
Okay. And so because in a little bit more, thank you for that. A little bit more about being a Satanist, because a lot of people have this idea that Satanists are all out there like trying to sacrifice kids and all this stuff. And see, because I've studied all different type of walks of life, just because I'm just a real curious person that way to try to understand, people's past. And with that said, I read some of the, I guess, I don't know if you want to call them rules or laws of being a Satanist, but one of them was like, don't harm children and don't do this. It's a lot of, it kind of reminds me of some of the things even in like, I guess Wicca, like the Wiccan belief, like, as far as like, respecting the earth, respecting this. So can you explain a little bit more of that? Because I think a lot of people have this idea when they hear a person's a Satanist, they say, oh my God, they're out there like, in the shadows killing people or what have you, and drinking blood or whatever. So can you
Yeah, that's largely,
you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, that's largely a result of Hollywood. Wiccans, witches have the same, bad reputation because of these Salem witch trial scares and all of that, and the Puritanism in the United States, where just everything but Christianity is evil and it's the devil's work. But yeah, there was a huge satanic scare back in the 80s, and of course, Satanism has always been popular in horror movies. These are people who are getting their understanding of things from Hollywood, and that they need to understand that this mythology of Satan. We're humanists. We're atheists. We don't believe in Satan. We don't believe in the devil. We don't believe in any of that. We're just trying to make the point about freedom of religion, that your religion, because someone emailed me this recently asking, but you're a Satanist. How can I trust you to be sheriff? I was like, you trust Christians every day to be sheriff. If you have a problem with me being a Satanist, you should have a problem with them being Christian and advertising the fact that they're Christians. It has to go both ways. And that's the whole reason we call ourselves Satanists. None of us are out there harming children. Do as thou wilt, but harm none is the core teaching of Satanism. Do whatever you want, but don't hurt anyone. Be free, be happy, love one another. Just don't hurt people. Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Those are easy rules to live by. And people have a hard time even believing that those are the core teachings of Satanism. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, because they misunderstand it so badly thanks to Hollywood and thanks to just centuries of Christians running around painting everything that wasn't their own religion as evil.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. Like I said, I like to know because, a lot of times, and I've read that, but I just wanted to share it here because people see Satanists and they come to certain conclusions. So with that said, I know you one of the things that you ran on was F the police and that the system was broken. Can you explain a little bit more? I know you talked about it briefly earlier, but and I don't know if it's particularly in your area or just in overall general speaking of the system. What do you mean by that? That is broken.
I mean, people believe in the system, right? They believe that the whole thing, the government, the political parties, the whole state apparatus is somehow going to help them. It's going to make the world a better place. It's going to improve everything, and everything's going to be great. They believe that. And that's why they were so surprised when I got the sheriff nomination. People were asking, how did this happen? How did the Republican Party let this happen? Because they so strongly believed in it that they thought it would protect them from me becoming their sheriff candidate. It's broken. It invited them and told them, we will keep you safe. We will take care of you. We will make sure you have roads and great schools and healthcare and all of these other things. And it's broken these promises one by one by one. It cannot deliver. It's not an institution capable of delivering. It's not designed to deliver. It's good at one thing and one thing only, and that's killing people.
Okay. So how do you plan to make things different? What is your, idea, if you were to get in and actually, win, what would you plan to do? How would you make it different?
I would tell my deputies that they have a few options. They can sit in the office and hang around until there is a report of a crime where there is an actual victim. They can go out and police the police who are out there, creating actual victims by extorting them and kidnapping them and harassing them and holding them against their will and all of these other things that police do over people who aren't actually creating victims themselves, or they can quit. And I think that's how this has to be. We need someone to actually go out there and police the police. Ideally, we would all be policing the police because this isn't okay. But a random citizen approaching a cop with a gun, asking, just open carrying it, asking, why are you bothering this peaceful person? Might very well get killed. But if you're a deputy or you're a sheriff, you're not going to be. They have to answer to you because you're not their boss, but you're the only person who can actually arrest them for kidnapping this peaceful citizen, for harassing this peaceful citizen.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, no, I find that very interesting. So basically what you're saying is that you want to hold police officers accountable. Yes. That's one of the main things you want to do. So what's your I guess thoughts on the riots and the looting right now? Like what are your I'm just curious to know, kind of pick your brain on what's going on in the climate today. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the most recent ones are excellent examples of just how completely broken the system is. I mean, we had cops go into Breonna Taylor's apartment building or something. I don't remember all of the details now because, I mean, there's just so many cops killing people all the time that it's really kind of hard to keep track of it all. Yeah. And didn't announce themselves. They're saying they announced themselves, but even if they did, look, if somebody comes to my door and they're banging on it at 3 o'clock in the morning, shouting, "This is the police," is not going to stop me from holding a gun when I open that door. Yeah, because that could be a crackhead. That could be someone wishing me harm, knowing that the best way to get into my house is to say that they're the police. Of course, the worst way to get into my house is to say the police, but that's not true of most people.
Right.
I'm going to shout back to the door, "Do you have a warrant? Come back with a warrant." But most people won't do that. They'll open the door. "How can I help you, officer?"
Yeah.
But we have all of these things, and then we have Breonna Taylor, who was shot and killed by police, and only one of the 3 officers involved has actually been charged with anything. He's not being charged with murder. He's being charged with wantonly discharging his weapon. That's not good enough. And all of the arguments are, well, the DA and the grand jury, they all know that they can't make a murder charge actually stick here, and they know he won't be found guilty if they charge him with murder. Okay, well, that's broken because this guy shot not knowing what he was shooting at, and he murdered someone because of that. That's murder. I understand that you can't legally make the charges stick, and that's why I know the legal system itself is broken, because you should be able to make those charges stick in this particular case. The fact that they can't is proof that this isn't about one bad officer or one bad police force in a city. This is about the entire system designed to allow police to brutalize us.
Oh yeah, and that's why a lot of times I don't even know if I like to say that the system is broken. It's literally set up the way it was designed to be. You know what I mean? It was
it's working as intended.
Yes, and it's very exhausting. But one thing I will say that I commend about you is that I feel as though you are going about it in a strategic way. Because right now, my thoughts. And do not get me wrong. I understand why people are upset. I understand why people are out there doing what they're doing. But for me, it's just it's kind of a level of insanity. Like when you keep doing the same thing, right? Over and over again, expecting something different. It's like, we've been down this path before, we've done this before, and we still get the same results as in what we just saw. So with that said, I do commend people who are strategically planning to make real change, because until we do that, I mean, we're just spinning wheels, you know what I'm saying? And we're reacting in an emotional way. And in my opinion, I think that we are helping to usher in some type of different laws that people want to have ushered in, and we're helping them do it. That's just my opinion on it. So I do like the fact that there are people out there strategically trying to do some other things. Have you always had an issue with police officers? I mean, because your whole campaign was F the police. So have you always had an issue, or did something trigger that to kind of put you on that path to fight?
Not particularly. I mean, I just see what they're doing, and I know it's morally repugnant. I've always been sort of anti-authoritarian because one of the earliest memories I ever have of interacting with the state and its police in any capacity whatsoever was when a sheriff came out and took me away from my mother to go live with somewhere else, as she was crying and I was crying, and neither one of us wanted this. And I was a little kid. I was under the impression that my mother was the one who was in charge of me, but no, it wasn't. It was the government. They're the ones who got to say what was best for me. And I realized right then that that's wrong. My mother cares way more about me than the government is ever going to. We can't have this system where people believe so strongly in the mythology of government that they allow this to happen. Are there unfit parents out there who shouldn't have kids? Okay, yes, there are those people, but they're not the only ones being affected by this.
No, that's true. That's true. Yes, I have worked with families, and I have seen people who I feel were treated unfairly, and then people that really deserve to have their kids taken, the kids stay with them, which was so perplexing. But yes, I agree with you on that. So that's kind of what that's like one of your first memories, and that's something that probably, of course, was very traumatic and just kind of stuck with you in regards to how authority can kind of just do what they want to do with your life.
Yeah. But then after that, people go into the public school system where the principal of your school is judge, jury, and executioner. And you have these people talking at you all day, every day about how wonderful it is to live in the United States, how free we are, these wonderful checks and balances. But meanwhile, we're being raised in these systems that increasingly look like prisons. They have fences around them and barbed wire at the top. They look like freaking prisons. We're being raised in that environment by a totalitarian who is both judge, jury, who is all judge, jury, and executioner over any offense that we're told that we committed. No appeal process, no jury, none of that. None of that actually applies. And then we become adults and we go into this mythology because we've heard it our entire lives. We've been brainwashed to believe that it's true, that there's these checks and balances, that the system is good. But we're raised in an environment where it's not. And then we come out into the world and we still have all of that brainwashing in our heads. And we go about our lives in a system where the police, the state apparatus, is judge, jury, and executioner. And we never stop to pay attention to it, just like we never stop to pay attention to the fact that, the principal being responsible for all of these things is not right. There's no accountability here. There's no ability for me to actually feel free here because I've got this tyrant rolling over me telling me what I can and can't do. And if he decides that I'm wrong, he gets to punish me and I can't do anything about it. The public school system is a wonderful microcosm of how the American system actually is, because throughout the entire process, we're being brainwashed into believing that the state apparatus, the Constitution protects us, the Bill of Rights protects us, but it doesn't. And then we got into the real world and we experience that, but we don't face it because of all of this brainwashing convincing us that the world we have isn't the world that we actually live in.
Okay. Do you feel that this is an achievable goal? Do you feel like this idea of basically us all being responsible for ourselves, policing ourselves, do you think that's possible because of what you stated in regards to how the masses, most people do believe in certain things, right? So do you believe that this is possible, achievable?
I do. I mean, most people don't vote, right? And it's because most people don't care enough about the political system. But we have to really understand what that means. It means that they don't care to tell other people what they can and can't do. That's beautiful. That's how most people are. We have this state apparatus that just constantly pushes violence and hatred and fear and telling us we have to hate one another because those Republicans are evil, or because those leftists are evil, those trans people are evil, those immigrants are evil, those black people are evil. It's constantly dividing us into groups and selling us hatred, and we're buying. We have to stop buying, first of all. Yeah. And we have to live in love with one another, which the vast majority of people want to do. They just can't. And those who don't want to live in hatred probably would if they hadn't been raised in this environment of fear and hatred and violence that taught them to be the hateful, violent, fearful people they are.
Yeah. No, I agree with you in regards to division. the divisive tactics that are being used, especially now. I mean, for me, I've always seen it, right? It's always been there. We've always had these groups where one thinks one is the better and blah, blah, blah. But now it's so blatant. It's so like in your face, this whole divide. And like you said, it breaks down in so many different ways where it's us versus, that person instead of us versus them, which is like big government. And this is not an attack. This is just reality. It is more of us. They work for us. And I think that people forget that they work for us and we can demand change. But again, most people have to kind of get on the same train and work together. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because a lot of people aren't able to stand up and voice
Absolutely. The divisions that we have now, they are only helping the government continue to oppress everyone.
Yeah.
That's it. It is not helping us at all.
Yeah.
It is helping only them because it's keeping us from coming together to actually do something about it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's tragic.
I agree with you. It's very sad to me because there are a lot of people that I believe agree in more things than not. But this goes back to how you were nominated. People just pick sides. They don't care.
Yeah. They want their team to win. They're Patriots fans, and they want the Patriots to win, so they're going to pull in support behind the Patriots.
Yeah.
The only difference is that the stakes are significantly higher, and they're not treating it with the severity that it deserves. They're not acting like they're actually putting someone in power who can actually rule over people. They're acting like it's just a matter of putting on your team's favorite jersey. It's far more serious than that. It shouldn't be because the entire apparatus shouldn't exist, but it exists and it needs to be treated with the gravity that it deserves, not laughingly, not mockingly.
Or like just lackadaisical.
That's a better word.
No, it's not better. It's just another part of it. It really is, So what you said is true too. It's just this idea that, because I've been watching people, I talk to people, and it's just so interesting that, even stuff that people, and this is on both sides, this is the thing that people are missing. People are saying Republicans and it's like, I have seen and talked to some Democrats that are just as, mean right now and just kind of evil and just like my side. And it's like, yeah, but we have some work to do too, because in my opinion, both sides have not always been that gracious to some people, different people in the communities. Both sides have not looked out for the poor, in my opinion, as much as they should, and people that really need help. So, a lot of it is lip service and pandering on one side, and then the other side is just blatantly saying, hey, we don't care about you right now. We're working on it. You know what I'm saying?
You're exactly right. A lot of these communities that, want these types of changes are not actually advocating for these types of changes. Like I did a Ask Me Anything on Reddit earlier today in the politics forum. It was great, but there are so many leftist anarchists who are mad at me right now because I'm a free market anarchist and not a socialist anarchist. And apparently to them, that's just heresy.
Explain that to me because I don't. So explain the differences.
I'm an individualist anarchist, which means I believe in voluntary consent, and they're socialist anarchists, which means they don't. They believe that if you don't want to take part in their society, it doesn't matter. They're going to rob you and take your stuff so that you have to take part. I would argue that they're not anarchists, but I don't want to attack socialist anarchists. They believe differently from I do. They can explain their positions, and that's fine. But I'm not going to say they're not really anarchists. But that's what they're doing. They're going there, and instead of focusing their efforts, these anarchists, on actually fighting the state and the powers that be that are actually out there killing people and oppressing people, they want to come to Reddit and argue with me about what a true anarchist is. Dude, I don't have time for that. I have an actual enemy here, and that enemy is the state.
Yeah. But that goes back to that division. I don't care what group people are in. I don't care what party you're a part. There's always these little sub parties, right? These little subgroups. And again, this goes back to what we were saying earlier, if the masses, if these groups actually came together and realized some of the things, a lot of the things that they have in common and work together, we can make some real change. But a lot of people, like you said, even within these groups, people are arguing against each other. And, even right now with the Breonna Taylor situation that you spoke of earlier, you have people within different communities that are fighting. Well, the parents took the money; they shouldn't have took the money, and that's why. It's like, what? Give me a break. Arguing about they took the money or not. I think they probably knew, like most people knew, that what the outcome would be. I mean, so I don't judge people on that. That's not my place to judge that. The whole idea, the point of what I'm trying to make is that the more we come together for the bigger picture and the bigger things that are actually impacting all of us. I mean, because I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with money, with taxes and things that are directly impacting all of us that we really need to look at. And until we come together and realize that and work together, I mean, we're just spinning wheels.
I agree entirely. Can't think of anything to add to that.
Just been a will. I mean, because I know on we talked earlier, and I know on one of your social media platforms, you got a death threat.
Yeah, I did. And I didn't take it seriously because, as I've said, if someone is going to actually do me harm, they're not going to warn me in advance. That's just stupid. Why put me on my guard? If someone wants to actually try to kill me, they're just going to show up and try to kill me. They're not going to tell me in advance. So I wasn't taking it seriously. So my first reaction was to screenshot it and just start making fun of the guy, which is generally how I handle stupid things like that anyway. And so the social media platform did not approve of that and ended up giving me a 30-day ban.
Because you shared what somebody already said to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of that.
It's stupid. It's totally stupid. It's like, hey, I was the one this threat was actually made to here. I kind of think my opinion on this should matter, and they were like, no, hate speech.
Do you feel that with you running right now, do you think that people are more upset that you kind of, about the police part, the police, about you being transgender, about you because you play metal rock or metal, what is it? Metal rock music? Is that how, am I saying it right? I'm not a metal person.
I generally just call it rock because most of what I write isn't actually metal. It's not that heavy. So
okay. Thank you for clearing that up because I don't know.
No problem.
So I mean, what do you think the main objection to you is? Do you think that it's just you all as a whole, or do you think something about the F the police or being transgender or what?
I don't know. To me, it's like this is the whole package. This is what I am. Deal with it. I don't know if one particular part of that is upsetting them more than others. I wish I knew, but I don't. Any part of it could be because it probably varies because there are a lot of Christians who are in the Republican Party who are upset because I'm a Satanist. There are probably a lot of Christians in the Republican Party who understand Satanism and who don't care about that, but they're upset about me being trans. There are Republicans who are in favor of police brutality for all intents and purposes. I imagine they're probably rare, but there are still many of Republicans who support the police who are mad about the F the police platform. So who knows?
Yeah.
Plenty of reasons to not like me.
Yes, I wanted to just put, I always put everybody's website on here if people want to know more about your platform and kind of, why you do what you do, even though you said it very clearly here today. But if they want to, get a little bit more information here, we could also do that. And Joe Nathan says hi.
Hi.
And, we can kind of, I'll put this there. So if people want to look at that, they can. Yeah. I really thank you for coming on and clearing up some things for me. Like I said, I found the story very intriguing. I am what people would call sometimes a button pusher. I kind of push people's buttons sometimes, and I do challenge things a lot. I challenge people to be a better version of themselves and to be accountable for what they're saying. And this in itself is a prime example of that, being accountable for what you say you stand for, right? Because they aren't responsible, in my opinion, for really seeing who you were. I mean, they just clicked. I mean, essentially, they clicked because they saw a Republican name and just clicked, just went down and just kind of check. And they weren't being really responsible. And that's, and I believe people should, if you say you stand for something, then you should be able to be held accountable and be responsible for your decisions and not get mad now that, you're the, the nominee. So how's everything going with your campaign right now?
It's going well. I'm a bit swamped. Like today, I've been doing interviews for like the last 5 hours, and then I did the Reddit AMA, and now I have to leave here and actually go to my full-time job. So,
oh goodness gracious!
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm tired. It's been a long day. It's been a fun day though, and I'm pleased that the message of ending the divisiveness and coming together as people against the oppression of the state is getting out there to people.
Awesome. Well, again, Aria, I will let you go because I know that you're busy and you have things to do, and I didn't realize you have to go to a job right now. So, again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I love speaking to the source, to the person, to find out more about them. So I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I wish you the best of luck and, have a beautiful day. And again, we're going to stay in touch because I really do want to follow your campaign and kind of, see what's going on with that, because like I said, I find it very interesting. I just find it, I wonder how people who are Republican are going to vote now. They'll probably vote Democrat because they,
We'll see. Yeah, it's going to be wild.
It's going to be very interesting because it's just you two, right? It's just that option. So there's nobody else. So, okay. All right. Well, you have a great day, Aria. And again, thank you so much. And I wish you well.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a good day as well.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Awesome. That was a great talk with Aria. I find that very interesting. And, I'm glad that she was able to share her story, in regards to how that happened. And, I love people who are passionate, everything you don't always have to agree with. I mean, that's life, but passion is one thing that I love. And I like when people stand by what they choose to stand by. So that's an awesome trait and, a way to live life. So anyway, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate you being here with us today. All right, take care.